Good morning. Today is Friday, the 8th day of Elul. And today we begin chapter 12 in Igeret, HaKodesh, the holy letters of the Alter Rebbe. As we said in the past, those letters, the 32 letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote, they're not necessarily connected with each other. However, many of them talk about the mitzvah of tzedakah. The last chapter was a really fundamental chapter, not directly connected with tzedakah, but Alter Rebbe was explaining in general the concept how everything that comes from Hashem is good. Even the things that seem not good, they're really good, because there's nothing coming from Hashem that is bad, but it is such good in disguise that we don't see it and comes out in disguise of something which is not good. And Alter Rebbe concluded that when we go with this emunah, with this faith that everything is good, ultimately, eventually, we will be able to see the good. In chapter 12 that we begin today, it seems that there is somewhat of a connection to this concept, because here also the Alter Rebbe is telling us that with the tzedakah, giving the tzedakah, the planting of the tzedakah, doing the work of tzedakah, is something that helps us to reveal the good. So, let's begin chapter 12. Let's look inside. Okay. So here the Alter Rebbe begins with a verse that says, V'haya ma'aseh atzedakah shalom, v'avodas atzedakah hashkeit v'vetach ad olam. This is a verse in Yeshaya. It says, and the reward for the act of tzedakah will be peace, and the reward for the service of tzedakah will be quietness and sorority forever. Meaning, when you do tzedakah, ma'aseh tzedakah, you get peace. When you do the service of tzedakah, you get quiet, you get security forever. So, if you read this verse, simply, it sounds like repeating itself, like you're writing poetry. But the Alter Rebbe explains that this is not poetry. And in fact, also the sages explain, the Targum Yonason explained the translation of Yonason ben Uziel. He explains that there is two separate things. There is something which is called the ma'aseh tzedakah, the act of charity of tzedakah. And the result, the reward for act of tzedakah is shalom, is peace. And then there is also avodas tzedakah. There is the service of tzedakah. And the reward for the service of tzedakah is hashkeit v'vetach ad olam, is quietness and security forever. So now this is what we need to understand, says the Alter Rebbe Lahavi, we need to understand the hefresh shebein ma'aseh la'avoda. What is the difference between the act and service of tzedakah? And also we need to understand the difference between ubein shalom lehashked v'vetach, the difference between the peace, which was a reward for the act of tzedakah, and ashked v'vetach, the quietness and security, safety, security, which is a reward for the service of tzedakah. So, in order to explain this, the Alter Rebbe begins by explaining, first of all, what does it mean, peace? Saying the reward for the act of tzedakah is shalom, peace. So he's going to define what exactly does it mean, peace. Al-pi mashe amru razal, based on what our sages tell us, al-pasuk, and the verse that it says, Oise shalom bimromav. We're all familiar with the song. Ose shalom bimromav. What does that mean? Ose shalom bimromav. That our sages, blessed memory, tell us the verse, he makes peace in high places. Romav is the high places. But God makes peace in the heavens. What does it mean he makes peace in the heavens? In the high places. Over there is also fights over there. Somebody fighting there. That God has to make peace. So says the Alter Rebbe that yes, indeed, there are also differences up there, and God is making peace among them. What does it mean? Says the Alter Rebbe, Ki Michael Sar Shel Mayim, because the angel, there's an angel called Angel Michael, the angel Michael. And he's the prince of water. The Gavriel Sar Shel Eish, and the angel Gavriel, he's the minister of fire, the prince of fire. Ve'ein mechabim zeh zeh. Now the water and the fire, Michael and Gavriel, do not extinguish one another. What does that mean? We know that the angels, the Rambam explains, angels are also their entities, just like a person is made out of Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Afar, fire, wind, and water, and earth. So the angels also, they don't have the four components, but they have a more subtle component. But here, when we say Michael is Sar Shel Ma'im, the Michael is the angel of water. We're not talking that the Michael, obviously, we're not talking about him, that Michael is made out of water. We're not saying that the Gavriel is made out of fire. We're talking about the concept of water and the concept of fire. And Alter Rebbe explains this. Koloima. This means to say, Shemichael Sar Shel Chesed. When we say Michael is angel of the prince of water, it means that the angel Michael is the prince of Chesed, of kindness. And the kindness, Anikra b'shem mayim, this is cold water. Ayordim mimakom gavoa lemakom namuch. Just like water, you pour water, it keeps going and going and going from the higher places to the lower places. The same thing is the Michael is the angel that is about giving. That's what we always, when we sell aliyot in the synagogue, sometimes people will say, Michael, I want to give Michael. What does it mean? I want to give Michael. They give the numerical value of Michael, which is 101. That's why people give 101. So, because Michael is represents the chesed, represents the giving. Anikra b'shem mayim. The water goes down, flows from a higher place to a lower place. And this means it's about the descent, the diffusion of the divine life force from the higher to the lower worlds. This is Michael. Now, the other hand, there is the nature of the water. The nature of the fire. The level of the fire, shetiva lailos lemailo. Fire has a nature, the opposite of water. And that is to go up. This represents the level of the gvura, the severity. It is about removing the flow of the life force from below to above. It's not to give, in order not to bestow, except in a way of very intense and immense concentration. Now these two attributes, the Michael and Gabriel, they're total opposites. The attributes are total opposites. But when is it opposite? When is it conflicting? But only when they are in their pristine state of attributes, which means when they're in the level of their designated attribute, then they each one of them, the Michael feels chesed and does chesed, Gabriel does gevura, restriction. Now, what happens when Hashem wants to make peace? How does Hashem make peace? Combine the two? Says the Alter Rebbe, HaKodesh Baruch Hu oiseh Shalom b'neihem. But the Holy One, blessed be He, makes peace between them, so that they should not oppose one another. How does Hashem do it? Dehainu al yedei gilui shemitzgale bahem ahoro rabba. It is through a revelation, so that an immense illumination, and an intense effusion, me'oir ein sof baruch hu, that it comes from the infinite ein sof light. When this is revealed within them, asher kishmoi kein hu, which is just like His name, that so it is He, which means she'einoi bibchinas midah chas v'shalom, that the light of Ein Sof is literally Ein Sof without any measure, it's not, God forbid, measured in any midah, any plane of an attribute. Elul maila maila adinkates, but this transcends exceedingly without limits. Afilu mibchinas Chabad moker amidus. Now, the light that Hashem reveals is such a Ein Sof light, which is even higher than the level of Chabad. What is Chabad? Chabad is Chochmah Bina Das, the intellect, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And which is, the intellect is Mokor Amidos. This is the source of the emotions, the source of the attributes. So the level of the light of Hashem that is revealed is even higher than the midos and higher than Chabad, the intellect, which is the source of the attributes of the emotions. And then what happens? Amidos negdios, the opposite attributes, Shel Michael veGavriel, of these two angels, Michael and Gabriel, they become absorbed in the source and the root, and they become truly unified. And they are nullified within His light, which radiates to them in a manifest way, in an open, revealed way. Just to give you an example, you said when you have, let's say, an example with a husband and wife, each one has their own agenda, and sometimes they have to compromise. And you do for me, and I do for you. But sometimes they have, when there is something which is above them, there's a higher, when there is a higher goal, a goal that both of them, it's higher than both of them, then when they are doing the higher goal, it unites them. They're not doing something that are compromising for one another, but they both are united with the higher goal. When it comes, let's say, to save the child. So to save the child is not going to say, okay, I'm going to compromise. We're going to give my time and we're going to go save my child. And you also, you compromise and give your time to go save our child. No, it's something which is above all of them, something which unites them. Or another example that is given in Chassidus that talks about that angels, when you have ministers of a king, sometimes the ministers, each one have their own agenda. Each one, the Minister of Defense wants to take sure that the security, the Minister of Finances wants to make sure that the economy is okay, and sometimes they're conflicting. But when they are both in the presence of the king, the differences go away, because the presence of the king is there. And the king's presence brings about such a high revelation that they all included into the presence of the king. So the same thing here, says the Alter Rebbe, that the angel Michael is one thing, chesed, kindness. The angel Gabriel is about justice, severity, gvura, judgment. But when Hashem is oiseh shalom bimromav, he makes peace. How? By revealing the higher level, which is Hashem himself comes, and then they both come together for that goal of which is Hashem himself. And then what happens? It says, the gevura, which is the severity, is thereby tempered and mellowed. It is sweetened with the chasadim, and it is transformed into good and kindness. What brings them together is the intermediary, kava machriya umate klapi chesed, which is the line, is the intermediary between gvura and chesed, which leans towards chesed, leans towards kindness. He midas harachamim, and this is called the midas harachamim, the attribute of mercy. Anikra b'shem tiferes b'divrei chachmei ha'emes. Now, the level of this third level is called, in the Kabbalistic terms, it's called Tiferes. What does Tiferes mean? Tiferes means beauty. What's the connection? Why is it called beauty? Because what makes something beautiful? Chesed is like, it's white, it's giving. Gevura represents also the judgment, is representing color red. So when you want to make something beautiful, when you combine different colors together. So when this is the two colors together are combined, amaramzim lechesed gevura. So what is chesed? Chesed is about giving, and giving without any calculations. Gevura is about restricting, meaning giving only to the ones who deserve. If they don't deserve, they don't give. Comes Tiferes. Tiferes is the beauty, is mercy. Tiferes says, you know what, Chesed, you are right. You have to give. And you know what, Gevura, you're also right, you have to restrict. However, there is something which is called mercy. And mercy is to give even for those who don't deserve, not because there is no calculation, not because we give without any thinking. That's what Chesed says, give. Tiferet says, yes, you have to make calculations. You have to be careful with who you give, but nevertheless, you give it because of Tiferet, because of mercy. You give it nevertheless, even to those who don't deserve. And therefore, Stam Shem Avaya. Baruch Hu. Again, Ramzim Lechesed v'Gvura, this alludes to Chesed and Gvura. Velochein Stam Shem Avaya Baruch Hu, shebekol HaTorah, Moire al Midas HaTiferes. This is why the name Avaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, well, in the whole Torah, whenever it appears in the Torah, it usually alludes to attribute of Tiferes. There is the name Keil, Aleph Lamed is Chesed. There is a name Elokim. Elokim is Gevura, judgment. And the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the higher name, this represents Tiferes because Tiferes comes from a higher level, which is able to combine the Chesed and the Gevura together. As it says in the Holy Zohar. For here, in Tiferes, the infinite Ein Sof light becomes manifest in an immense illumination. It comes from such a high level. And this is surpassing that of the other divine attributes. That is why the Midah of Tiferes is in the name, the Yud K, the Vav K. This is the end of today's shir. We're going to now blow the shofar once again because we're getting closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. Shofar blowing. Yes. 1 second. There we go. Gut gewünschte Jahr. And if you have any questions, now is the time. Please share, please subscribe. Spread the good word around the friends. All the best and a good Shabbos.